Welcome to the laws of Shabbat. This will be part 32 of the class. Today, Rav David Yosef Shlutan, the Sefer Halacha B'Ura, is going to speak about entering through a door opened on Shabbat by a Jew in a forbidden way and many other halachot. If the door of the house was opened on Shabbat, al yidei mafteach, through a key or with a key, it was brought there in a forbidden way. Derech reshut harabim, through the public domain, b'makom she'en sham eruv, in a place where there is no eruv. Mutar likanes letoch habayit b'Shabbat. One is allowed to enter into the house on Shabbat. Va'afilu kishenasa davar b'mezid, even if it was done intentional, al yidei Yehudim michalal Shabbat, through a Jew that desecrates Shabbat. So we see over here in the first halakha that if a person brought a key on Shabbat where there was no eruv and he opened the house door for us, we would be allowed to enter, even if he did it intentionally. Now, Rabotai, what is an eruv? Let's just define what an eruv is. An eruv is a halachic system that joins together different areas into one shared domain. Once you have an eruv, that's why we are allowed to carry on Shabbat. But if that eruv is not there, or they didn't put it, put it up, or it broke, you're not allowed to carry on Shabbat. So if somebody would carry on Shabbat and open the door of the house, can we enter into that house even though he did it in a forbidden way? The answer is yes, you are allowed to enter. Even if the person who did it was a Jew that desecrated Shabbat, still you are allowed to go ahead and enter into the house. Now we're going to see other ways that you can open a door on Shabbat in a forbidden way, and still we're going to allow you to enter into the house on Shabbat. Now, Rabotai, this doesn't only apply for a house. It can also apply in a hotel, as we'll see, or in a hospital. One time, Rabotai, I had to be with one of my children in the hospital. It was very, very hard to move around, because you can't come in, you can't come out. Like if I had to go outside to get something, there's those electronic doors that open up when you come close to it. I wasn't able to come out, so I'd have to wait for a goy to come. I wouldn't tell him, but I would have to wait. Or what about coming out? They had these doors that unless somebody doesn't ring you in or buzz you out, you're not coming out. So it was a little bit complicated, but what I'm trying to tell you is that we're going to see all these situations today that if you are faced in one of these situations, we're particularly speaking about a house, apartment building, but if this happened in a hotel or in a hospital or anywhere else, these laws would apply. And so too, if the door of the house was opened in a forbidden way on Shabbat, how? Through those magnet cards. That it opens up the door through an electronic way. Or if you open the door by pressing the button, which makes an electronic digital way that is able to open the door. Or if a person went ahead and he pressed on the electric buzzer, and that's the way the door opened up. And so too, through an electronic eye. If you had a door which opened up through an electronic eye, what does it mean, electronic eye? Basically, like I just tried to explain, that whenever you would walk, like I don't know if you ever passed by one of these big like Rite Aid or CVS, they have these electronic doors, correct? So when you come close to it, it opens up. Why? Because there's an eye. That's what he's trying to say over here. That those cameras basically, that when you come close to it, it's able to catch you. That's when it opens up. So that's what he's talking about, the electronic eye over here. So he says like this, V'chen and so too. If you had a door which opened up through an electronic eye, when you come close to it, it opens up. And now a Jew passed by there, and because of him the door opened up. Are you allowed to enter? You are allowed to enter into the house on Shabbat. So we see over here a few ways that a person can go ahead and open a door in a forbidden way, either through buzzing somebody in, either through, you have those electric codes on the door, which work in an electric manner. You have the digital one, but you have also electronical digital ones. Or if you went ahead and you passed through an electronic eye and opened the door, doesn't matter. Or you had the magnetic card, these apply in the hotel. But it doesn't matter. In any one of these ways, if the door was opened up like that, you would be able to go ahead and enter into that house on Shabbat. Even if it was done intentionally, through a Jew that desecrates Shabbat, we're going to tell you are allowed to go ahead and you are allowed to enter into the house. Now Rabotai is going to speak about over here like this. What happens if you are faced with a situation? Let me use the situation of a hospital. Let's say a person ends up being in a hospital on Shabbat. Now, there was a Jew that passed by there was a Jew that doesn't keep Shabbat, so he came close to the electronic doors. Now, when the camera caught him, it opened up the doors. So the halakha says you're allowed to enter, correct? But here's the problem. What happens if that Jew ran away? Now he's already 10 feet in front of me. But now I'm walking also inside the door, correct? Because it's still open. But the problem is, the second I take more steps, the second I start walking away from the door behind me, what's going to happen? It's going to close. So what do? Do I stand in one place or am I allowed to walk? What am I supposed to do? Okay, good. You said I'm allowed to enter. But that's when it's open because he opened it, so he gives you a few seconds to enter. But when he entered and he ran away, I'm stuck. What am I supposed to do? Can I move on or do I have to stand there the whole Shabbat? Okay, so that's what he says over here. You're allowed to continue walking. And you're allowed to distance yourself from the door. Even though that person that opened the door, he already left. He already left from before you. He's not there already. And now because the fact that you're going to distance from the door, you're going to cause it to close. You're going to cause it to close is not a problem. Okay, Rabotai. So one more time. So all Rav David Yosef Shutai son goes over here that if you had a Jew that passed through a door, whether he went in or whether he just passed through the door and it opened up the door for me, I'm able to enter. But I have a problem. Am I allowed to continue walking? Let's say he opened the door and then he went that way. Or he went inside, but he's already far away from me. What am I supposed to do? Rav David Yosef Shlita Paskins in the Sefer Halacha Birura, Mutar lamshich behalichato. You're allowed to continue in walking your regular walking. Ulitrachek min hadelet, and you're allowed to distance yourself from the door. Av sheoto shepatach et hadel avar lefanav. Even though that person that already opened the door for you, he already passed. And now the fact that you're going to distance from the door, you're going to close it, you're going to cause it to close, it doesn't make it's not a big problem. Let the door close, that's not my big deal. That's not my issue. Okay, Rabotai, so all this we just spoke about entering into the door of a house if it was open in a forbidden way. Can we enter? Bottom line is, Rabotai, halachically speaking, if somebody opened up a door on Shabbat in a forbidden way, even if it was done intentionally through a Jew that desecrates Shabbat, can we enter? We are allowed to enter. Now we're going to speak about another halacha. What about, Rabotai? Now we're going to speak about a electric refrigerator. What about opening up the refrigerator? What happens if you have the door of a electric refrigerator? It was opened up in a forbidden way. Here we go. If you have a door of the refrigerator, at the time when you open it, the lights go on. The electric lights go on. Inside the refrigerator. And it was opened on Shabbat in a forbidden way. through a Jew that desecrates Shabbat, sheyada, he knew, she'al yidei pitichat hadelet, he knew that through opening the door, tidlak hanora, the light is going to go on. Nevertheless, Rabotai, can we take out the food from the refrigerator on Shabbat? Lo nesru divrei hamachal shebetoch hamikarer machmat ken. The food does not become forbidden in the refrigerator just because he opened up the door in a forbidden way. Umutar leotziam uve'leochlam. You're allowed to take it out and you're allowed to eat it. Ulishtamesh b'hem b'Shabbat, and you're allowed to use them on Shabbat. It is not a problem. Kol sheyachol, but now he tells us a very important factor. Kol sheyachol lir'otam uleotziam gam belo shitzarech le'or shebetoch hamikarer. As long as I'm able to see it and take it out without the need of using the light in the refrigerator. Now, Rabotai, this is a very simple case. Because remember, when I'm sitting in my living room or my dining room, right, and the kitchen's over there, where is the refrigerator? It's in the kitchen. In the kitchen, you have light on. So even though he opened up the refrigerator, right, yeah, you have light. But let's say that light was off. Would I be able to see what I'm taking? Yes. Why? Because I already have light in the kitchen. So that I'm using really that light, and I'm not using the light in the kitchen. So that's what he's telling us over here. As long as you're able to see the food, and take out the food, also without needing to use the light that's inside the refrigerator. Over here, we're going to go ahead and we're going to allow you to take out the food, eat the food, use the food. It is not a problem. And for sure, and for sure, if a person forgot to unplug the light, the electric light before Shabbat, right? You forgot to take off the light of the refrigerator before Shabbat. How many times does this happen? You tell the children to take, I don't know if you guys have those, today, Baruch Hashem, everything's advanced. You hold on the power button, one more button in the refrigerator. You wait a few seconds, the light goes on. It goes on Shabbos mode. You tell the kids to do it. How many times it happens, they forget to do it. Always double check, Rabotai. Always double check. So what happened over here? You forgot to go ahead and you forgot to take off the light in the refrigerator. Or you forgot to unscrew the light bulb. Or the old refrigerators, we used to put a tape on those, on those buttons that go up and down, that turn on the light and off the light. Nevertheless, what happens if we forgot? And you opened by accident the door of the refrigerator. You're allowed to go and eat. You're allowed to use all the things that are inside the refrigerator. It is not a problem. So let's just do this one more time. And for sure, if you forgot to unplug, if you forgot to take off the light, if you forgot to take off the electric light in the refrigerator prior to Shabbat, and you open the refrigerator door on Shabbat by accident, right? And you forgot, and you opened up the refrigerator door by accident on Shabbat. You're allowed to eat and use on Shabbat the things which are in the refrigerator. Now, what about closing the refrigerator door? That, Rabotai, we're not going to allow you to do. Nevertheless, after you have opened up the door, be careful not to close it. Because we do not want you to turn off the lights in the refrigerator. You should place something that's going to separate the door from the refrigerator itself, so this is not going to close. Nevertheless, he says, you are allowed to tell a goy that he should close the refrigerator door. When are we going to tell you allowed to tell a goy? As long as I am concerned that the food in the refrigerator, that if I'm not going to close the refrigerator door, the food in the refrigerator is going to get spoiled, I'm allowed to tell a goy to close the refrigerator door. Now, needless to say, if you're afraid because by keeping the refrigerator door open is going to break your refrigerator, you're allowed to also go ahead and tell the non-Jew to close the door. Or he said right here, or the refrigerator is going to get ruined because you're going to keep the door open. In all of these situations, we're going to tell you are allowed to go ahead and tell a goy to close the door. Nevertheless, even though you are allowed to tell a non-Jew to close the door, nevertheless, he says over here, Vitov, it's good. Shalolo marlo befer. Don't say it openly. Don't say it outright. Don't tell him close the door. Don't do that. It's good. Not that it's not allowed. It's good. Second, right? You shouldn't do it openly, but rather you should do it in a way where you're hinting to him. You're gonna say, "Oh, is the door open over there?" Just say something that he's gonna understand to go ahead and close the door. All right. So vitov shalol marlo befer second. You shouldn't tell him openly that he should do so. Rather, what you should do is just hint to him. Okay, Rabota, with that we do conclude the laws of opening up and closing the refrigerator doors on Shabbat if we forgot to turn off the light inside. Next topic. Hana'ah mimizug avir shedolek b'Shabbat b'isur. Can one benefit from an air conditioner that was turned on Shabbat in a forbidden way? If somebody made a mistake, and he turned on by accident on Shabbat the air conditioner, or he turned on the electric fan, you are allowed to go ahead and benefit from them, even on Shabbat itself. Even if it's allowed to that person that actually turned on the air conditioner or the fan on Shabbat. Rabotai, all that if it was done by accident. Aval, however, but what happens if a person went and he turned on the electric fan or the air conditioner on Shabbat knowingly, intentionally? Asur lehenod mahem b'Shabbat atzma. It is forbidden for one to benefit from them on Shabbat itself, ben oto shidlik u ben acherim. Whether that person that turned on the air conditioner or the fan, or whether other people that were not involved in that act, everybody is not allowed to go ahead and benefit from the air conditioner or from the electric fan. Next point. What happens if a person with a hair and on Shabbat he heated up, or he cooked food in a microwave? Are you allowed to eat that food? If somebody went ahead and he cooked a food on Shabbat in a microwave, the same halakha is going to be like somebody who cooked food on Shabbat on the fire. Like we explained all these halakhot prior to learning all these halakhot, what we're learning now. So we saw that you're not allowed to use it. Next piece. Now, what we're about to learn from here until the next portion, all this Rabotai right now, what we are about to learn is to people that live outside of America, meaning people that live in Eretz Yisrael. Now, let me just maybe give you an introduction. You should know that Baruch Hashem over here, like when you look at a Con Edison company, right, or any other electric company that delivers the power, majority, at least 90% of the people working there at least have to be non-Jews, correct? But when you're looking at Eretz Yisrael, they have companies that majority over there are Jews. So Jews are the ones that are producing the electricity for us on Shabbat. So can you use that electricity? So that's what we're going to go ahead and we're going to want to speak about right now. Okay. Yes, machmirim, there are those that are stringent. Shelo lishtamesh b'Shabbat, that they would not use on Shabbat. Bechashma, they would not use on Shabbat electricity. Hamiyutzoar, which is produced al yidei chavrat hachashmal, which is produced through an electrical company. Why? Machmas sha'ovdim sham hem Yehudim, because the people that work there are Jews, ha'osim pe'olot shel chilul Shabbat, that they do everything through desecrating Shabbat, כדי לספק צרכי החשמל לכל התושבים, in order to provide the electric needs to all the residents in Eretz Yisrael. So some people are stringent and they're not going to use electricity in Israel. By the way, some of them even have their own generators to be, not to use electricity produced by Jews on Shabbat. Nevertheless, Rav David Yosef Shlita says, "V'yesh mikelim." However, he says there are those that are lenient. B'zeh mikama tamim. There are those that are lenient in this by using even the electrical company, which is by a Jew, where they produce the electricity through Jews working on Shabbat. There's many reasons why they allow. He says like this: Sharei b'zmanenu, because since in our times, rov ha'polot liyutzuar ha'chashmal nasot ba'ofen automati. All the electricity that we get are usually done in an automatic way. Even if there's a concern, maybe there's Jews that are actually working there and they're desecrating Shabbat in that electrical company. Nevertheless, adain enze vaday. Still, this is not 100% sure. How do I know that the electricity that I'm using right now is because of that guy that he did it on Shabbat? Maybe it's coming from the automated electricity, the way when it makes it itself. How do I know where it's coming from? I don't know. So I have a safek. And this is like a doubt. It's a doubt if there's description of Shabbat. Whenever you have a doubt if this was done on Shabbat or not, you don't know if this is done, through the Jew that's working the electrical company, or is it done through their machinery? What's producing the electricity? Is it the machinery or is it the Jew? I don't know. It's a suffix. Oh, good. Whenever you have a doubt, one can be lenient. So you see over here clearly, that's one reason you can go ahead and use electricity, even though it's produced by Jews in Eretz Yisrael. Ve'od, and furthermore, שבזמננו מצוי הדבר שחולים שיש בהם סכנה. So he says also it's found today that when you have sick people in the house, that they have danger to their lives. משתמשים במכשירים רפואיים השמונים בביתם. They use all these electric machinery for their health. ובלא החשמל יבוא לידי סכנה. Without the electricity, their life can be in danger. וכיוון שאי אפשר שיהיה יצואר החשמל להם בלבד. You can't say that the electrical company is only producing for the sick people electricity so they can stay alive. You can say that. That's what he says over here. יש להקל אף לבריאים. You can be even lenient even for healthy people. להשתמש בחשמל, to go ahead and use the electricity. והמקל בזה יש לו אמס שיסמוך. Somebody who uses electricity that is produced from an electrical company where there are Jews that desecrate Shabbat, he says if you're using their electricity, you have what to rely on. But nevertheless, he says, وَمَخْمِرْ تَوَو اللَّهُ بَرَكَةً. But one who is stringent, may Hashem bring blessings upon him. Okay. Now, Rabotai, we're going to move on to the next point. What happens if there was a power outage? Right? There was a power outage and sometimes you have blackouts. And then somebody comes and they fix it. What happens if it was a Jew that fixed it? Is one allowed to go ahead and benefit from electricity that was fixed on Shabbat? Meaning, since there was a power outage or there was a blackout and now somebody came and fixed it, are you allowed to go ahead and benefit from that electricity? So he says like this. She'im ira takala kilalit. If it happened, if there was a general malfunction, if there was an power outage, or if there was a blackout, b'ma'arechet ha'chashmal, be'ir achat or b'shukun achat b'shabbat. If there was a malfunction in one city, or even in one neighborhood, v'tiknuha Yehudim b'shabbat. And the Jews, they're the ones that fixed this power outage. One who's leaning to benefit from this electricity on Shabbat, whether you're speaking about the light from the electricity, ובין מתבשיל שהיה מונח על הפלטה חשמלית, or whether from ובין מתבשיל, or whether from if you had food which was placed on an electric plata, ולא היה מבושל כל צורכו קודם לכן, and it was not fully cooked prior to the blackout, יש לו על מה שיסמוך, he has what to rely on and continue using the light or you eating the food on Shabbat. והמחמיר תבוא עליו ברכה. One who's stringent, may Hashem send him blessings. So all of David Yosef Shita telling us like this. What happens if you had a power outage in a city or in a neighborhood? Now a Jew went and he fixed it. We know it's a Jew that fixed it. Again, in America it's going to be very hard to say this, but let's say we know it's a Jew that fixed it. Now when all the lights turn on, can I start using the lights? So he says one who wants to be lenient, he has what to rely on. But somebody wants to be stringent, Hashem should bless him, meaning not to use the lights. Similarly, he said regarding the food. What happens if I had on a plot of food which is not fully cooked prior to Shabbat, and it still didn't cook, and now on Shabbat the blackout happened, but my food is still not hot? So if you're going to leave the lights off, meaning if you're not going to fix the problem, I'm not going to have any food to eat on Shabbat. But now the fact that the Jew went and he fixed the problem for me in the city or in the community, now the electric plata went back on. So now he's going to cook my food on Shabbat. He says again, you have what to rely on and to go in eating that food, but nevertheless, one is going to be stringent. May Hashem bless him with blessings. Now this is very important to note over here, Rabotai. All this is specifically if it happened be'ir achat or b'shechuna achat b'shabbat. We're going to see right now. We're not going to give you this leniency if it happened in your own house. Okay? We're not going to give you this leniency, Rabotai. So let's do this one more time. She'im erat takala kelalit. If there was a general malfunction where there was a power outage, b'ma'arech hachashmal, in the electric system, be'ir achat in one city, or b'shechuna achat b'shabbat, or in one neighborhood on Shabbat, v'tiknu Yehudim b'Shabbat, and who fixed it on Shabbat? The Jewish people. Hamikel lehenot mechashmal zeh b'Shabbat, one who's lenient to benefit from this electricity on Shabbat, ben me'or hachashmal, whether he's using the light of the electricity, or ben mitavshil shaya munach al plata chashmalit, or whether he had food which was placed on an electric plata, but it was not fully cooked prior to the power outage. He has what to rely on. One who wants to be stringent, may Hashem bless him with blessings. Continues Rav David and he says like this, Ulam, however, this whole rule that we said, that if this power outage happened in the electrical system, that's specifically in one city or in one neighborhood. Aval, however, what happens if you know your what do you call those I forgot how it's called. But you know, we have the breakers in the house. But what happens if your breakers in the house, they all went out? There was too much, sometimes, especially in the summer, you have the AC running, everybody's running AC. Let's say your house is the only one that has a blackout. Over there, Rabotai, we're not going to allow you. We're not going to allow you. Look what he says, Rabotai. If this malfunction, if this outage happened in your house, and you didn't have in that house somebody sick, that there's danger to his life, because over there you would need to fix the electricity for his sake. Now, I don't know, you had an uncle that's an electrician, and he said, I'm not sitting in the dark. And he went and he turned the breaker back on, he put it back on. Asur lehenot me'oto chashmal beShabbat. It is forbidden for you to go ahead and use that electricity on Shabbat. So it comes out over here that this whole thing that we're going to allow you, that if there's an outage or blackout in a city or in a community and a Jew fixed it, will allow you to use it. Again, you have what to rely on, but better to be stringent. But if it happened in your house and there's nobody else that is sick in your house that would need electricity in order to continue providing good health for him, over there, Abu we're going to tell you it is forbidden for you to use the electricity on Shabbat. Now he's going to give us a few examples of to what extent this is actually going to go to now. So he says like this: if you had food which was placed on an electric plate, or al shar machshirim chashmalim, or if you had other electric things, be'ofanim shemutar l'shamesh b'hem b'Shabbat. Let's say an urn, right? The other things that you're able to use them on Shabbat. You need to remove the food immediately from the electric plate once the outage happened. Or if you had hot water in the urn, you got to remove the hot water and put it into another bowl or into another place where you're going to be able to keep your hot water. Why? Because we do not want you to benefit from the desecration of Shabbat. So it comes out of here, Rabotai, it's a very big problem. If there's a blackout in the house and you had food on a platter, or if you had water, right? And by the way, again, they have these electric plates. They have I don't know if you've ever seen, they have not only the one we have the electric plate, but you have also one where it's nice and small. Whatever, you have different kinds. Or you have the urn, or whatever you're able to use on Shabbat, where you're not desecrating Shabbat. If you had food on these things, now you have a blackout, you have to remove all the food from the plata, from the electric plate, from whatever else it was. The water has to be removed from the urn. Because once the light goes back on and once the electricity goes back on, now it starts reheating everything. Now you're benefiting from the desecration of Shabbat. So that's what he says over here, tzarich lasir miyad mala plata chashmalit. You need to remove it immediately from the electric plate. In order for you not to benefit from the desecration of Shabbat. Now, what happens if a person didn't do it? If a person did not remove the food from the electric plate, so now we have to see, Rabotai, how the law is going to play. If you did not remove the food from the electric plate, again, apply this to anything else, the water and anything else. If at the time when they fixed the electricity problem, the food was still not fully cooked, and because once they fixed the electricity, now it cooked more. Asur le'ochlo b'Shabbat. It is forbidden for you to eat it on Shabbat. And even after it became cool, you would not be allowed to eat that food on Shabbat. Again, because you are enjoying from a desecration which was made on Shabbat. He says, and even im haya hatavshel mevushal kol torko, even if the food was fully cooked, ela rather she'achar shetiknuha et hachashmal shenishtabach hatavshel v'naseh yoter tov. You know what happened? He said, let's say the food was fully cooked, but rather what? Once they fixed the electricity, it enhanced your food more than it originally was. So that's also a problem, Rabotai. Asur le'ochlo b'Shabbat v'afilu achar shenitanen. It is forbidden for one to eat on Shabbat. Not only when it's hot, you cannot eat that food. V'afilu achar shenitanen. Even after it became cold, you are not allowed to eat the food. So we see over here, Rabotai, if I had a food on an electric plate, let's just use this one example. If I had a food on an electric plate and I have a blackout, God forbid, and now my job is to remove this food from the platter. Because remember, if somebody's going to fix the problem, let's say a Jew who's Michalol Shabbat, if he fixed the problem and the food is still there, if it's going to enhance my food, if it's going to better my food, more heat is going to better my food, I'm not allowed to eat the food now. So that's why you want to be able to remove it once the blackout happens. And so too, another case, if the food was fully cooked, until they were able to finish, until they were able to fix the electricity problem, the food was fully cooked, but it cooled down. Say it took him an hour to do, by then the food is already cold. Now they fixed the problem. They fixed the electricity. Now it went back and now it reheated. Because they fixed the electricity problem. Even if the food did not enhance, even if the heat did not make the food more better, because of that, nevertheless, asur le'chlo b'Shabbat, va'afilu la'achar shenistanen. It is forbidden for you to eat that food on Shabbat, even after it cooled down. Okay, Rabotai. So again, we see very clearly, but it's not so partial. It is not so simple. We do not want to benefit from the desecration of the Jews that desecrate Shabbat. We don't need to benefit from their desecrations, Rabotai. Next case. Again, and if the food was fully cooked. Now what happens if I had the food on the platter? Now, before they were able to fix it, the food was still hot. Now when they fixed it, the food didn't become cold yet. And the food was not enhanced after they fixed the electricity problem. Some say you're allowed to go ahead and eat on Shabbat. And some say no, it's asur for you to eat it. Again, one can be lenient, but it's better to be stringent. So again, one more time. If you had food which was fully cooked on Shabbat, and it was on an electric plate, and they fixed the electricity problem before before the tavshel even got a chance to become cold. Now when they turned it on, and now that they fixed the electricity, right now the platter started working and the food didn't enhance, it didn't become better because of the heat. Some are going to allow you to eat it on Shabbat, and some are going to tell you it is asur to eat it on Shabbat. Rabotai, next piece. By the way, we're going to do each one, we're going to go B'ezrat Hashem B'li word for word in English, because I tell you, I know it's a lot. Let's see let's just get there. All right, we're going to go, Rabotai, we're going to have to do the review for sure on this one in English. I know it's a lot, but I want to be able to get the whole subject in one shot. All right, let's go back over here. Now, another topic. Im tzarich letzet mehacheder sheyidliku bo or. Does one need to leave the room where they turned on the light? Here we go. Yehudi shehidlik b'Shabbat et ha'or b'cheder letzorech atzmo. If you have a Jew that he turned on the light in a room on Shabbat for his own sake, ben b'shoigig ben b'mezid, whether he did it by accident, whether he did it intentionally, nachon lehachmir sheyotza min hacheder. It is correct to be stringent to come out of that room. V'lo yehne kalal me'oto or shudlak be'isur. Do not benefit at all from that light which was lit in a forbidden way. So if you had a Jew, say let's say I'm in somebody's house, not in my house, because we'll see it's a different law when you are in your own house. Let's say you ended up going to your friend's house, and the guy doesn't keep Shabbat, or he keeps Shabbat and he turned it on by accident. He said it's better to come out of that room. Come out of that room where the lights are. Do not benefit from the light at all. Go to a different room. Nevertheless, אם הדליק יהודי מחלל שבת את האור בחדר שבביתו של יהודי אחר ששומר שבת. Nevertheless, it says, if you have a Jew who doesn't keep Shabbat, who desecrates Shabbat, if he lit the light in the room of the house of another Jew that keeps Shabbat, even though you're not allowed to use that light on Shabbat. For example, you cannot sit there and read by the light. Now you can eat there by the light. Nevertheless, you're not obligated according to the letter of the law to come out of the house. It's your house. I have to come out. In somebody else's house, okay, fine. What am I? Listen, your house, you did it. I'm out. I don't want to benefit from I don't want to benefit from anything which is done in a forbidden way on Shabbat. But in my house, Why should I come out? You can't kick me out of my own house. But nevertheless, we're still going to tell you, don't use that light to read. Don't use that light to eat food. Again, we speak about a situation where you were not able to do it without that light. Because if I had other light, for example, Baruch Hashem, I like when there's a lot of light. So there's light everywhere. So okay, so if you turn on right now, this light on this section of the basement, it's not going to do anything. So there I'm not using that light, I'm using this light. Okay. Continues Rav David Yosef Shlita. וכן and so too, אם הדליק יהודי מחלות שבת. וכן and so too, אם הדליק יהודי מחלות שבת, if you had a Jew who desecrated Shabbat, if he went ahead and he turned on את ההסקה המרכזית, he went on and he turned the central air conditioning system, but he didn't turn on the air conditioning, he turned on the heater, the central heating system. That's what it's called. Or at mizug havir, or he went and he turned on the air conditioner. Latzmo for himself. Uluchol direi habinyan, and to all the people that are living in that building or in that house. Af apisha sulu shaliyad hahasaka, even though one is not allowed. Af apisha sulu shaliyad hahasaka merchazit, or liyad mizug havir, even though you're not allowed to sit next to the central heating system or next to the air conditioner, in order to go ahead and get heat from them, that you're not allowed to do. Nevertheless, nevertheless, you're not obligated to come out from your house. And it's good to be stringent. It's correct to be stringent, to open the window in order not to benefit from the desecration of Shabbat. So comes out of here, Rabotai, very simple. If somebody, let's say if you have a superintendent, and let's say he's Jewish, and he turned on the heating system, whatever it might be, we don't want you to sit next to the heating system. Nevertheless, you don't have to come out of your house. However, it's good to open the window in order not to benefit from the heat. What happens if a person was in a very dark place? And now a Jew who desecrated Shabbat, he went out and he turned on the light for the sake of that Jew, so he's able to walk without any problem. He's able to see where he's walking. How should I walk now? He just turned on the light for me. Up to now, when I was walking, you could barely walk, it's dark. But now that he turned on the light, how am I allowed to walk? Should I walk? Should I stop? What should I do? Should I close my eyes? So I shouldn't benefit from the light. He says, you're not obligated to close your eyes. When you want to walk, you're not obligated to close your eyes. Also, you're not prevented from walking, to continue walking wherever you were going, just because he turned on the light in the hallway or in that dark place, just because he did it. Why? Because it's not considered that you're using the light which was lit on your behalf. It's not considered that you're using that light. I would have been able to walk without him. Okay, so one more time. You're not held back from walking because that Jew who desecrated Shabbat turned on the light. Why? Because it's not considered to be that you're using that light which was lit on your behalf. Nevertheless, but it was very dark. Now, if it wouldn't be for that light that the Jew that desecrated Shabbat turned on, you would have to walk little by little, step by step, in order for you not to stumble in your walking. If that would be the case, now you have to walk also the same way you would walk as if there was no light. You're not allowed to rush in the way you walk, because you are now benefiting from the desecration of Shabbat. Continuation, Rabotai, another piece. הנאה מתוספת אור שהודלק בשבת. Let me just correct this. Can one benefit from the additional light which was lit on Shabbat. If you had, like I spoke about it earlier, if you had already you had lights in the room which were already turned on, it was not a lot of light, it was a little bit of light, but often in a way, I'm able, like with great need, in a great situation, I'm able to use that little light that's already lit in my room. And now came a Jew that desecrated Shabbat. Now he went and he lit another light. He wanted to make it easier for you. He says over here, one should be stringent not to use, not to benefit from that extra light. Nevertheless, nevertheless, if you had a Jew who desecrated Shabbat, he went ahead and he turned on the light in the house of another Jew who keeps Shabbat, he's not obligated to come out of his house, like it was explained above. Okay, Rabotai, up to now, all that was in Hebrew. Let's go through a summary. Let's go step by step, okay? Point number 1 we saw, entering through a door opened on Shabbat by a Jew, even if it was done in a prohibited way, right? Even if it was done in sin. If someone opened a door through an Isur, for example, used a key carried through public domain without an eruv, used a magnetic card, used an electronic code, used an electric buzzer, passed in front of an electric sensor, which we spoke about that eye, you are allowed to walk through that door on Shabbat, even if he did it on purpose. If the door will close automatically, you may continue walking, even though your walking away causes it to close. Halacha number 2. Refrigerator door open on Shabbat, where the lights turn on. If a Jew opened it knowingly, the food does not become forbidden. You may take out food if you can see it without using the light. If you forgot to disconnect the bulb and open by mistake, all food is permitted. Important, do not close the fridge door. Closing will turn off the light. Leave something to hold it open. You may ask a non-Jew to close it if food will spoil or the fridge might break. Better to hint, not directly command. Benefiting from AC or fan turned on during Shabbat. If turned on by mistake, you may enjoy it. Even the one who turned it on also may enjoy it. If turned on intentionally, no one may benefit from it on Shabbat. Halacha number 4. Food cooked in a microwave on Shabbat. Same halacha as food cooked on fire on Shabbat. Food is forbidden as that is Maaseh Shabbat, that is not allowed to be done. Halacha number 5. Using electricity from the Israeli electric company on Shabbat. Some forbid because Jews work on Shabbat. Many permit. Why? Much is automatic. Not only that, not certain your electricity was produced through a Shabbat violation. Who says? Maybe it was produced through an automatic. Many sick people depend on electricity. Therefore, production is for pikuach nefesh, is to save lives. One who uses it has whom to rely on. One who is strict is praiseworthy. Number 6. Electricity restored on Shabbat after an outage. If the outage was city-wide or neighborhood-wide, if Jews repaired on Shabbat, one may use the electricity including lights, food on a plata. The strict are praiseworthy. If the outage was only in a private home, if a Jew repaired it, forbidden to benefit from that electricity. Food on the plata, there are rules. If it finished cooking only because the electricity was restored, then we're going to tell you it's forbidden to eat that food. Even if it fully cooked, but got better because of the restoration of the electricity, again, forbidden. Even if fully cooked and then cooled, then reheated, still Rabotai, we're going to tell you, forbidden. If fully cooked and did not cool, and did not improve, it's a machloket. Must you leave a room when lights was turned on? If you turned on the light by accident or on purpose, best to leave the room so you don't benefit. If a Jew is not Shabbos observant, turn on the light in your home, you may stay in your home, you may stay in your house, but you may not read or eat by that light. Better to open a window so you don't benefit from the added light or temperature. If he turned on heat AC for himself and it affects the whole building, you may stay in your home but do not sit next to it to warm it up. If you turn it on a light so you can walk in a dark place, you may walk normally but not faster than you would in the dark. Extra light added on Shabbat. If some small light was already on, you could manage with difficulty. A Jew adds a stronger light, you should not benefit from that extra light. But you do not need to leave the house. Rabotai, this will be the whole review. We finish a whole section if things were done in a prohibited way, if you're allowed to go ahead and benefit from it or not. Have a great day. Baruch Adonai L'olam. Amen ve'amen.